Hello there everybody, Sam Strange here, welcome back to the railway and welcome to another review, this time not even of an American loco, but rather a Canadian one. So today's loco was an absolute bargain. I got this for an amazing price. There was a little bit of a catch because sadly it didn't have a box, which is why I can't unbox it today. But apart from that, I'm not bothered, as I say, because I got a really decent price for it. So it's a Canadian loco, as I've said, and I have shown it once before. So if you've got good memories, you might remember seeing this. So here it is. It is this. Now this is a huge loco. As you can see, it's a 482. So it's a bit like a Pacific, but with an extra couple of driving wheels. And this is known as the Canadian National 6060, and if you'd like to know a bit more about this, stay tuned and I'll give you some info in just a second. So what I paid for this was 50 quid. Now that to me sounds really good for this model. Obviously it's quite a basic model. I'm not trying to say that it's a super detailed one or anything like that. It's really good for beginners or just casual enthusiasts that want a good price and a good quality model, and I do think that's what this is. It's not in absolutely perfect condition. If you look quite closely towards the front of the thing, you can see sadly there isn't a bell on there. I did know that when I bought it, and I just thought, you know what, for the price I'm not going to quibble over the bell. And at train fairs and things, I will keep an eye out. I'll keep my eyes peeled and see if there are any sort of scrappers going cheap and things, maybe even on eBay too, and if I spot one with a bell I might buy it and then obviously use the bell and keep the motor and wheels and other parts for spares, which is always handy to have. But for the time being it's got no bell, but just imagine that there is one there. There would be one there on the real thing. So obviously we're going to go straight into this. Here's a little history on the Canadian National 6060 and then we'll cut straight to a nice close look at it. So, unlike quite a lot of the Mehano locos that I've already looked at, this particular model does actually have a real-life counterpart. It is based on a real-life loco, and of course that was number 6060. It was a Class U1F mountain-type locomotive built in 1944 in Canada. The mountain type was made up of 20 examples which were ordered during the Second World War. Before very long, most of these were converted to oil firing, rather than, of course, the more traditional coal, which resulted in a change of tender, of course, to accommodate the oil and not the coal. Supposedly, the distinctive sort of cone-shaped smoke box door was also removed on, well, over time as well. Though luckily this model seems to depict none of these alterations. It does appear to still have the coal tender, of course, and it does have that beautiful cone-shaped smoke box door, as you can see, which I quite like. I'm glad it's got those. So I would suggest, or I would infer, that this loco is represented in its original condition. So there we go then, a nice close look at the Canadian National 6060. It's absolutely huge, and in fact I can only just fit it on this white screen that we're looking at it on now. So yeah, as a budget model I think this looks absolutely fantastic, to be honest with you, and it's not until you get quite close to the thing that you actually get an inkling that it is a budget model. So we'll get onto some of the details and features of this in just a second, but a little while after I bought this, I discovered something about it that actually blew my mind. Now, whether or not this will blow your mind will depend on whether or not you're as sad as I am, I suppose. But to me, this was absolutely crazy, and yeah, it was something I discovered by accident. Okay, so the thing I discovered is that we've actually looked at this loco before. And not just in that running session that I showed her in either. We've actually looked at this loco in a review not all that long ago. So here we go, I'm going to show you the loco now. It is of course the Mehano Milwaukee Railroad Hudson. It's the same thing. Now, it looks completely different, and that's what blew my mind. It is a completely different model, but it does actually use the same body. The body is exactly the same. So that's what blew my mind. I thought, how can these two locos look so entirely different to each other and yet still be the same tooling? Well, the reason is because everything else apart from the body has been completely changed. So, for example, it's a completely different colour, the livery is completely different, which, as we know, can make a loco look completely different. Obviously the Hudson was a 464 and this is a 482, which is pretty different, so they've obviously got a different chassis on there. The tender, of course, is quite a lot different. Yeah, this tender here looks nothing like the Hudson tender, which again gives the loco a completely different look. It's got a different smoke box door. You can tell this is a cone-shaped one and not like the one that was on the Hudson. The running plate is obviously quite a bit different, so you've got this nice thick running plate on here with the running number on it with the, well, with the Canadian National. That wasn't on the Hudson, and even the fitting fittings on the top of the loco are completely different. Not really very successfully, I would say, because you can see there are sort of big holes where some of the fittings of the Hudson were, but are not fitted onto this. So, you know, it's not absolutely perfect. But yeah, that was absolutely bizarre for me to see that. That's not something we ever see really in the UK from British manufacturers. It seems to be something that only happens over in America. Obviously Mehano aren't American, but with American locos, because I've seen it a couple of times, and quite honestly I think it's a really good idea for budget models, because it means that you can get reasonably good quality models out to lots of people for a relatively low cost. It's very bad for realism and accuracy, of course, and I think if Hornby did it over here in the UK, they'd be in a lot of trouble, because obviously people wouldn't let them get away with that. But yeah, as far as just getting decent models for a decent price is concerned, I think it's really, really good. So as I say, yeah, very, very good quality. Let me show you some of the excellent quality features. So first of all, the wheels, they're all made of metal, as you can see, even the non-driven ones, all metal, and the tender wheels are metal as well. And there's also a lot of pickups. So you've got all of the driving wheels on the loco which pick up, so that's really good quality. And the tender has tender pickups as well, so you've got really, really reliable running with this. Most of the bodywork is just made of plastic, as you'd once again expect from a cheaper model. However, there are quite a number of separately fitted metal parts, including the handrails, as you can see, which are in a sort of high shine metal, which works, I think, with the more glamorous looking locos. You've got these separately fitted metal parts here, which may or may not be whistles or some sort of safety valve or something. Either way, they are made of metal and they shine, which is nice to see. And of course, around the front of the loco, around the pilot and things, you've got more of those separately fitted metal handrails, which I think really do look great on most locos, especially when they're high shine like that. It doesn't always look great on certain locos, but for the most part, I think that looks great. The paintwork's pretty good as well. As you can see, there's not an awful lot of paintwork going on with this, but what there is does make a difference, I think. So the wheels, as you can see, have got the lovely white outline on them, which I think looks great. The running plate here, for want of a better term, has got the yellow lining on it, of course, with the running number painted onto there as well. You've got a small amount of printed detail on the side of the cab, which shows the class, the U1F, I believe. And then the smokebox door, or smokebox cover, I suppose, has also got the running number written onto a little plate there, as you can see. And while we're looking at that, yes, you can see that there is a light on this loco. Whether it works or not, I can't 100% remember, so we'll have to check that. But there is a light there nonetheless. As I've already showed you, the top of the loco is reasonably well detailed with one or two separately fitted parts, as you can see towards the cab end here. But apart from that, most of the detail is moulded, which again is probably why the model is so cheap, but at least it is cheap and not basic and expensive too. So at least that's one good thing. The pilot area is relatively well detailed as well. You've got this dummy coupling. I don't think you can actually use that to couple the loco to anything. We've seen that a couple of times before, but it is at least reasonably realistic looking. And then you've got the little cow catcher there with a few separately fitted hoses and things just drooped down over there, which looks nice and realistic. The running gear is a little bit chunky looking. I have mentioned this before and people said, believe me, in America the running gear is pretty chunky looking. So yeah, maybe that's it, maybe it's supposed to look that way. But either way, the fact that it's chunky should mean that it's good quality as well and won't just break if you touch it or drop it or something like that, which means that it's pretty ideal for beginners really, and I do think these models are aimed towards beginners, which is fair enough. Taking a look at the cab, you can see there are no glazed windows. I'll have to have a look and see if the real thing did. It's hit and miss. Some American/Canadian locos seem to have glazed windows and others don't, so it's very possible that this didn't in real life, but either way the model doesn't. And inside the cab you can see there is quite a lot of cab detail there, quite an impressive amount really. None of it's painted, which is a little bit of a shame, but I suppose once again that would make for quite a nice project. The tender is very, very unusual, if I give you a shot of that. I've definitely never seen a tender quite like this before. So you've got this very, very huge coal bunker. In fact, I would say that the whole sort of front end of the tender is entirely dedicated to coal, whereas the back, as you can see this by this sort of tank shape, is dedicated to water. Again, quite different to the UK stuff. We normally have coal on top of water over here in the UK, or they sort of do share the same sort of area, whereas this seems to be completely separate, which is quite interesting. But yes, a very, very unusual tender. I'll get some shots around it there. Again, it's been finished off with quite a few separately fitted parts, including these metal handrails and this, I think, separately fitted wood panelling effect, which I suppose is a walkway on top of the water tank. And again, you've got a small amount of printed detail on the side there with the Canadian National logo, which is pretty nice. And the underframe's pretty strange as well. The whole tender seems to sit pretty high up on its bogies, which is rather interesting. And you can see there's some sort of apparatus fitted to the underside as well, Whatever that is, I'm not 100% sure, but it's nice to see that represented on the model either way. And on the back, as you can see, I have fitted quite a, this will make some people cringe I bet, but I have fitted a Hornby style coupling on there, just so that I can couple it up to some of my rolling stock, because obviously most of mine's British. Okay, so there we go, that's a close look at this. Now let's get it down onto the track and see how it runs, shall we? Okay, so there she is then down onto the track, looking absolutely fantastic. As I say, yeah, it didn't cost an awful lot, and consequently it's not the most detailed model I've ever seen, but it's still got character, hasn't it? And it's still got presence on the track, which I think is pretty cool. I enjoy running this one. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the mechanism then. I've already mentioned the pickups and the fact that it does have pickups in the tender as well as the loco, which is great. Normally that's only reserved for some of the more expensive top quality models, and even some of those highly expensive top of the range models don't always have them. I'm thinking of some of the Bachmann tender engines that I've seen, the Bachmann branch line ones, but this one does, so that's pretty great. The actual sort of drive mechanism's not absolutely amazing. I think there is only a 3-pole motor in there and no proper bearings on the wheel set, which is a little bit of a shame, but I must say I think the price does reflect that, which distinguishes this between the expensive models I've had in the past, which didn't have a satisfactory mechanism in them. Okay, so I have tested the pulling power of this before I do the slow speed. I'll just tell you about this. I measured a whopping 0.8 newtons of pulling force with this. Now that is even more, in fact, first of all, it's the most powerful steam locomotive I've measured. I mean, I've not measured a terrible amount, but that is even more powerful than the die-cast Wren Duchess class that I measured. It's considerably more powerful, and in fact the Hornby class 9F Evening Star was only about half of that pulling power at 0.45 newtons. So yeah, 0.8 newtons, a really mightily powerful loco. And to reflect that, I've put some Pullmans out, as you can see, and I'll pan the camera around. More and more Pullmans. In fact, there's loads. I've not even counted 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 Pullman coaches. So that will be a decent test of her strength, and hopefully she'll be able to manage them. It might be a bit embarrassing if not. Okay, well, let's do a slow speed test then. If you remember the Hudson I looked at not too long ago, which shares the body with this, that one wasn't great at slow speed, but this one is. Let me show you. I mean, it's not absolutely amazing. We've seen better, but there we go. It does kick in there. Not particularly smooth at that speed, fairly quiet I would say, but certainly not particularly smooth, a little bit jerky really. I don't think there's an awful lot of torque. In fact, if I hold the tender, yeah, as you can see it stops. Let go of the tender, it starts again. So yeah, that's partly due to the 3-pole motor, possibly also due to the gearing. But I would say if any criticism for the mechanism is that the motor is a bit underpowered for the size of the thing. Obviously there's a lot of wheels to turn, and because of the size of it, it will, you will want to put a lot of coaches behind it. Obviously at the high speeds it can manage it, but once we've connected, well, what was it, 11 Pullman coaches to it, we'll see what the crawl's like then, and I'll probably, well, I expect to find that I'll have to turn the controller up quite a bit more before it kicks off and crawls. So that'll be interesting, we'll try that. But yeah, as you can tell, very nice performance, certainly not bad once again for a budget model. Okay, let's go and couple to the Pullmans and see what happens, shall we? There we are, as you can see, beautifully smooth at this speed. Pleasure to run, really. Okay, so there we are, I think we're coupled there. So, as promised, let's see if she can crawl now with 11 coaches coupled. For all I know, it might do, I don't know, but I get the impression that it's a little bit underpowered, but we will see. Hopefully she'll manage them. Right, so she's taking up the slack in the coaches now. In fact, I might as well speed her up while she does that. Okay, there we go. She's still in shot? Yeah, more or less. I'm sorry that it might be a little out of focus, but hopefully we'll still be able to figure this out. So, no, she has cut out. So yeah, you can see that's a good demonstration of how underpowered it is. So I'll turn the controller up a bit further. There we are. Yes, and then it manages it, more or less. Okay, cool. Right, let's speed it up then. There we are, and as you can see, once I turn it up a little bit more, it's got more than enough power. Oops, although we have just had a coach derail. Hang on, let me fix it. I suppose that's the one of the perils of having such long trains. Okay, there we go, that's better. All right, very cool. Here's what else is going to be running alongside her then. So on the middle line we have the famous Hudson, which I've mentioned quite a bit today, who's got a bit of a small goods train. And people have told me that the Hudsons did haul goods from time to time, so that's all right, I reckon. So yep, that's another American loco for you, or a American loco for you. And then here's another one that I've not run for a little while, with a similar wheel configuration, although this one is a 484. And yep, she's got some sort of matching coaches. And see which other American locos you can spot on the line, and see if you can spy an odd one out. So, as you can tell, this thing is an incredibly good hauler, amazingly good. I don't know how, because most of the loco's plastic. It is pretty heavy, but not dreadfully so. Certainly not heavier than the Wren Duchess, for example, and yet it's considerably more powerful than it. And yeah, as is evidenced by the sheer number of coaches here that the thing's hauling. It's absolutely astonishing, it really is. And as I say, if you look at her, well, you don't look too closely, it looks like a fantastic model, doesn't it? Really, really good. So for the money, I can highly recommend them. If you want one for the novelty or for the pulling power, or just because it's cheap, I can recommend it. It's fun to run, it looks great, and it runs well. So ultimately, it's good in my book. Good old Daylight. Nice to see her running once in a while with my slightly dubious choice of coaches. But they sort of match, as I say, they're similar sorts of colour. And there we have the Canadian National. Yeah, it's certainly unusual, isn't it? I can honestly say I don't have another loco like it. Well, I do. That Hudson's pretty similar, but not dreadfully similar. Just comparable. And let me know in the poll, would you have noticed that it was the same tooling? Would you notice that it was the same body if I hadn't pointed it out? I only noticed by accident because I'd put them next to each other on the shelf. And yeah, I just noticed the similarities, really. Okay, so here are some of my ratings then for the Mehano Canadian National 6060. Detail, I've given it 2.5 stars. Obviously the detail is pretty basic as a beginner's model, as I would call this. However, it's not too bad in most areas. There is quite a nice amount of separately fitted metal parts, for example. There are also quite some impressive areas, such as the cab, which, although wasn't painted, did have quite a lot of detail. So it's not terrible, but it's not up to some of the standards we've seen. But I do at least think it's deserving of a 2.5 star there. The performance, as you saw, was very good indeed as well. The pulling power is absolutely insane, as I say, better than most steam locomotives I've measured. And also the slow speed was a lot better than some of Mehano's models as well, including the Hudson, obviously, which shared the same body. Mechanism then, I've given it a 4 star for reasons I've already explained. Obviously, it's not too bad, generally speaking, and the tender pickups make a big difference too. The quality, I'm going to give it a 4.5 out of 5. It's very, very nearly a 5 star. There are a couple of nasty holes in the bodywork which do detract a little bit from the perceived quality, and obviously the fact that we don't have any bearings in the wheel set means that I can't rightly give it a 5 star, but it is very close, so I've given it 4.5 there. Value then, as I say, I don't know exactly how much these cost brand new. I will take a look on Amazon. I'll put a link in the description if I can find some, but for the 50 quid I paid, I think it has to be great, and even double that really is still amazing value for such a huge model. So I'm going to give it a 5 out of 5, a benefit of the doubt there. Overall then, that is 7.84 out of 10, a very decent score. Let's put that into the ranking. There we go, 14th, just above the Hornby County 440 and below the Oxford Rail Genus. Yes, a very good model. So there you have it then, folks, a very decent looking, very grand looking and very well designed model for you there. And as I say, yes, if these are still being produced and if I can find a link on Amazon, I will put it in the description for you so you can check them out. I can't find any at the moment, but when I upload this a bit closer to the time, I'll have another look and see if I can find one. If not, eBay, I suppose, is your best bet. Yep, if you wanted to pick one up, I found mine on eBay, obviously. So that's about it for the time being then, folks. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed that. I certainly did. It's always enjoyable to see another American loco, especially one with that sort of almost streamlined shape. Yes, very nice to see that. All right, folks, well, thank you for your time. Thank you for your company, and I will see you all very, very soon. Cheers, everybody.